I am Maddie. I am 33 years old and I live between Leeds and Bradford with my husband Mike and our little boy Peter. He turned 3 in June. There are some days where I get up before he wakes up and I come home after he's gone to bed, and so we don't feed at all. And I night weaned coming up to a year ago now. So he doesn't feed overnight, but I do sometimes stick a boob in his mouth at kind of like 4 or 5 o'clock just to get him to sleep a little bit longer. But then days when we're together, if we're having a lazy day, if he's, which day was it? Thursday, he was all over the place with his emotions. So he fed quite a lot that day. So yeah, it's really variable. But yeah, it's become really important to us. And a bit of background about me and how well breastfeeding has changed my life is the one thing that I want to say, because it has led to a complete career change for me. I'm a medical doctor. I've been qualified for 10 years, and up until the end of July I was an obs and gynae registrar working at Bradford, but now I'm a public health specialist, and it's because of breastfeeding that I've made that change. And so, yeah, I'm training to be a public health consultant, or at least I have been just for the last 2 months. When I think I did the same thing that a lot of people do when they're pregnant. And it's like, yeah, I'd like to try breastfeeding. And I think I was sort of kidding myself by saying that I'll give it a go. And if it doesn't work out, it's fine, we'll use bottles. And honestly, a number of times I've heard that, especially now being on the other side of things. And I think, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, and you nod along and you smile and you go, yeah, that's absolutely fine. You do what works for you. But then I've had the experience and I've seen it happen to other people. Most recently, my sister-in-law, who's got always 3.5 weeks now, and but other friends as well. And as soon as that baby is in your arms, it becomes it was like a need to be able to feed him myself. Right there in that moment, breastfeeding mattered to me, and that is what I wanted. But I felt scared to say that out loud. Yeah, it was like my brain had just changed, and everything that I'd said before he was born just completely went out of the window. But I still kept saying that stuff out loud. So I still kept saying, oh, it's fine if it doesn't work, if it's hard, and there was this idea of, oh yeah, we'll introduce a bottle at some point so I could get a break. None of that ever happened. And I got to the 6 week mark and we were still going. And I was like, great, okay, we've hit the 6 week mark. I said, let's see where we go next. And then we got to the 6 month mark. And then I remember crying on the day that we decided to introduce solids, because all of a sudden he wasn't just breastfed anymore. And I was so proud that I'd gotten to that point, months, that milestone, and he'd only ever had my milk. Despite challenges in the early days with 12% weight loss and jaundice, he only ever had my milk. And that was such a sense of pride. But I'm also very, very aware that I only was able to do that because of the situation that I found myself in, with a husband who just kind of let me do what I wanted to do and then supported me along the way. And on the one occasion he did suggest formula. It was the middle of the night, he was screaming. He said, what about just giving him a bottle? I snapped at him and he never suggested it again. And I had a mum who had breastfed the three of us, and I remember since looked back at some of our WhatsApp messages from the early days when Peter was a newborn, and little things that she was saying, like, oh, does he go on both breasts for each feed? Just little things like that. So she's not an expert, but she's got that experience, and she got it and understood. And then the other person who I think was instrumental in keeping my breastfeeding journey going was my community midwife. And I know so many people who've had that similar experience, and the midwife has gone, right, okay, well, you need to top up, and that's the end of it. Whereas She was called Jo. She sat with me and she goes, "This is how you hand express." And she showed me how to hand express. And she gave me a little cup to collect it in. And she said, "Right, whatever you hand express, just give it back to him and hand express after each feed. And then you've got a pump." I did have a pump in the cupboard. It was a rubbish pump, but she said, "You can try using that." And then from there, things kind of just kept going. And the reason he was losing weight in jaundice was because my milk was slow to come in. I had quite a significant postpartum hemorrhage. It was calculated at the time as 1.85 litres. I am 99% sure it's significantly more than that. But based on my symptoms, based on my blood test the following day, based on the fact that I needed to have 2 units of blood transfused, I know that it was 2 litres. I'm a breastfeeding peer supporter as well. I'm in the process of setting up a charity for doctors who breastfeed. It's called MILC, MILC. Yeah, Medics Lactation Community, and we are a group. I think there's about 30 of us across the UK and Ireland. We're all medics by background, all obsessed with breastfeeding. And the aim at the moment, we have a Facebook group of nearly 3,000 people, and it's just peer support. Tailoring on the often tailored to the fact that we're doctors, and so we have a slightly different perspective on things. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves, and it's that expectation that we should know what we're doing. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we're like everybody else, and we're a new parent with a new baby in our arms, feeling lost and alone. Something I've done since Peter was born is I've gone back through my old med school notes to look at how much education did I actually get on breastfeeding. One of the things that milk in the long term, our long term goal is that we will at some point become the faculty for lactation medicine. Because the way we view it is that the breast as an organ, as a system, is the only part of the body that has surgeons but not physicians. The other thing that we kind of realize happens with breastfeeding as well, you not perhaps not uniquely, because I think there are other aspects of women's health and perhaps mental health as well where this happens, but we normalize pathology. So, new mum, she's got sore nipples because latch is, suboptimal, and we go, "Oh, it's normal, it's meant to hurt." Not only do we normalize pathology, we pathologize what's normal. "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you're a 3-year-old, you're feeding a 3-year-old. Shouldn't they be on a by now? Shouldn't they be on cow's milk by now?" So it's those two, and like you say, it is systemic, and that comes from people in every single branch of healthcare. You hear it from midwives who are supposedly our experts in this, but they only have a couple of days training. Yeah, I've only got half an hour as a doctor. They've only got a couple of days, and yet they're relied on by thousands of people every single day to support with infant feeding. GPs, like you say, but GPs, when do they first see a woman postpartum? 6 weeks. 6 weeks down is too late to be fixing those initial problems. But also, if a woman did go to a GP with those initial problems, is the GP going to know what to do? Probably not. I've got a colleague in Milk. She's about to become a breast consultant. So she's literally dealing with people with breastfeeding related problems, mastitis, abscesses, all of that on a daily basis. There is zero requirement for lactation education in the breast surgery curricula. You've got Royal College of GPs, Royal College of Obs and Gynae, Royal College of Child Health and Paediatrics that basically get into those organisations, as well as things like, the GMC and the medical schools, and make infant feeding and breastfeeding a priority for them, and make, by having a making sure that we've got a voice in that on that stage. We're hopefully we'll gain charity status. That's our first path, and then once we've got charity status, again, then there comes with that a little bit more recognition, I think. We can fundraise. We've got such an amazing team of people at the moment. Between the 30 or so of us, we've got people from all sorts of different medical specialties. So we've got surgeons, we've got paediatricians, we've got medics, GPs, psychiatrists, benefits of paid professional is again it's going back to cultural aspects. If you pay somebody to do it, it creates, it puts a value on it. It says this is something valuable because we are paying people to do it. Whereas at the moment, the majority of people who are out there supporting breastfeeding, I volunteer for about 4 hours a week. And like I say, I haven't ever been given a single penny. And that's because nobody values it. The people who value it are me and the people who receive the support. But anybody external, it's not worth it. It's not worth it to pay me to do that. But if we were to actually pay people properly for their skills, for their knowledge, for their expertise, there might be all of a sudden, oh, hang on a minute, this is actually something worth valuing.